Welcome to the DWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the DWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to another episode of the DWI Guy podcast. Today, we are going to continue on our sentencing journey. We're doing a three-part series on DWI sentencing in North Carolina. Last time, we focused on the sentencing factors that a judge uses in setting a DWI sentence. Today, we're going to be talking about the specific consequences criminally at each sentence level. So we're going to go through levels A1 and then 1 through 5 on today's episode. So kind of turning to the second objective of today's learning session, we are now going to talk about the different sentence levels that exist. So we're going to start out at the most serious sentence levels and then kind of work our way down to the least serious sentence levels. So the least serious sentence level of a level 5. So we'll start off at the aggravated level 1 or what's also known as a level A1 sentence. This is defined under North Carolina General Statute 20-179 F3. So the consequences of a level A1 sentence are a maximum fine of $10,000, a statutory maximum jail time of 36 months, and then a true maximum of 32 months. So under the statute, it says that the maximum jail time of a level A1 is 36 months. The true maximum is actually only 32 months because an A1 active sentence defendant will complete their sentence 4 months early, and then they're required to have a continuous alcohol monitor on for 120 days. So there's basically like a kind of probationary release that occurs at the end of that kind of maximum sentence. There is no good time credit for a level A1. And what does that mean? Well, basically, if your client is an A1 and they are sentenced to a 24-month sentence, then they're serving 24 months. That is the length of time that the person is going to be in jail, is for a period of 24 months. Under 20-179 K1, inpatient treatment can be credited against jail time in misdemeanor DWI sentencing. So this sentence can be this sentence can be produced, and I think my slide is messing up here a little bit, so let me kind of click through here. Sorry about that. But you can use inpatient treatment to replace the jail time at a level A1. So if you have a client that is sentenced to a year under a level A1 sentence and they've done 6 months of inpatient treatment, you can ask for that inpatient treatment to be credited against the required jail sentence. I've had a number of clients that have basically not done any jail time whatsoever on a level A1 because they did the kind of sufficient amount of inpatient treatment that the judge ordered in terms of jail time, and then credited that against the jail sentence. So the statutory minimum jail time at a level A1, the maximum again is 36 months, but kind of actually translates to a 32-month maximum. The statutory minimum jail sentence is 12 months. However, the true minimum sentence is 120 days in jail plus 120 days of continuous alcohol monitoring plus probation. So you could get an active minimum sentence of 12 months, but you could also get a suspended true minimum sentence of 120 days in jail and 120 days of camp. So I've had a number of clients that have worn a continuous alcohol monitor for 120 days and also done 120 days of inpatient treatment and not received any jail time under the level A1 sentence. This is something to note as we kind of compare level A1 sentencing with level 1 and 2 sentencing, but the statute is silent on an A1 sentence as to how much pretrial credit a judge can give for a continuous alcohol monitoring at a level A1. So again, we'll see in levels 1 and 2 that we'll talk about here in just a minute that you can only wear a continuous alcohol monitor before sentencing and still receive credit for that for up to 60 days under both level 1 and level 2. You can only get 60 days of pretrial credit towards the required amount of CAM time. At a level A1, you could, according to the statute, because there's no prohibition of this, you could have worn the continuous alcohol monitor for 120 days prior to sentencing and get 120 days of credit. So there's no requirement that there be only a certain amount of pretrial time of the CAM device under an A1 sentence. So moving on to a level 1, at a level 1, this is 20-179G. The maximum fine is $4,000. The statutory maximum jail time is 24 months. The statutory minimum jail time is 30 days. That 30-day minimum sentence is, again, deceiving because the true minimum sentence is 10 days in jail plus 120 days of continuous alcohol monitoring device plus probation. So while the statute, again, in theory, the minimum sentence is 30 days, the true minimum sentence is 10 days in jail plus 120 days of continuous alcohol monitoring. So make sure that you're clear with your client about that when they're looking at level 1 sentencing. This, like we had just talked about, moments ago, in regards to the 120 days of CAM, should your client try to go that route and asking for a minimum 10-day sentence plus 120 days of CAM, the client can only get 60 days of pretrial credit towards the 120 days of continuous alcohol monitoring. So there is a cap of how much pretrial credit you can get on CAM at a level 1 if you're hoping to use that to minimize the jail time. Just like with a level A1, the jail time can be replaced with inpatient treatment. So if your client does a 30-day inpatient program, if you're asking for the minimum sentence of 30 days to be replaced with inpatient treatment, you can do that. And if the judge grants that, then your client can do 0 jail time. If your client does 10 days of inpatient treatment and 120 days of continuous alcohol monitoring, that would be another way for a judge to avoid giving any jail time under the sentencing structure of 20-179. Unlike a level A1, at a level 1, the client can receive good time credit for an active sentence. So what does this mean? Good time credit in North Carolina, you basically can get 2 days credit for every 1 day of good time served. So potentially, if your client has a 12-month sentence, 12-month active sentence at a level 1, they could basically be released 6 months into that sentence. That basically at the 6-month period, assuming that they have served their time, good time, then they would be released at the 6-month mark. Moving on to level 2 sentencing, this is statutorily laid out at 20-179H. The maximum fine at a level 2 sentence is $2,000. So that's the statutory maximum fine. The statutory maximum jail time is 12 months. So the maximum jail time that a person can receive at a level 2 is 12 months in custody. The statutory minimum sentence at level 2 is 7 days. But there is a true minimum sentence, just like at level A1 and level 1, that is not that kind of statutorily laid out 7-day minimum, because a judge can impose 0 days in jail if they require 90 days of continuous alcohol monitoring and probation. So just like you can avoid having a statutorily minimum sentence at a level 1 by using CAM, a level A1 by using CAM, again, if there's 90 days of CAM, then that can reduce the jail time at a level 2 to 0. So I have a lot of clients, a lot of level 2 clients that are going to be facing that sentence level, that avoid jail time altogether by getting a continuous alcohol monitor for 90 days. And in all honesty, this is a much better rehabilitation sentence for a person. You have to spend $1,200 or $900, depending on how long you've got that CAM device on, thereabouts, to have the CAM. So you're asking for somebody to put like their money where their mouth is. They're making a financial investment in trying to better their life. And if you're really trying to combat repeat DWI offenders, making somebody go through a lengthy period of sobriety is a much more effective means than them serving a short jail sentence that is sending a very kind of limited message, and then they come out and they can start consuming alcohol again. I mean, maybe that's a condition of probation, is that they abstain from alcohol, but this is a way of actually tracking that, of proving that. It's going to be otherwise pretty difficult to prove whether or not a person has consumed alcohol. Just like with a level A1, a person can only get up to 60 days, or I'm sorry, just like with a level 1, but not like a level A1. A person under a level 2 sentence can only get 60 days of pretrial credit towards the 90 days of required continuous alcohol monitoring. So if you go in to a sentencing hearing at a level 2, and your client has been wearing a continuous alcohol monitor for 90 days, they will still have to wear the monitor for an additional 30 days because they can only be given 60 days of pretrial credit. So what I will typically try to do is plan out with my client. If we know when the sentencing is going to occur, I try to get my client to put on the continuous alcohol monitor anywhere between 30 and 50 days prior to the sentencing hearing. If my client is really trying to make a concerted effort of changing their life, of achieving sobriety, or we just want to kind of go the extra mile, I've had clients at a level 2 that walk into court with 120 days or 150 days of CAM just so they can show the judge, I'm not just trying to do the bare minimum under the statute. I'm trying to show that I'm trying to change my life, and I'm doing that one day at a time. But I've been doing this for 5 months. I've had sobriety for 5 months. I can prove that. So I've had clients that have worn it for longer, and that's been helpful in terms of sentencing. And I've explained that to the client. But it's one thing for the client to walk in with 150 days of continuous alcohol monitoring, knowing that they can only get 60 days of pretrial credit. And it's another thing when you walk in with 150 days of continuous alcohol monitoring and the client is expecting to be able to take the bracelet off, and then they hear, oh, wait, you actually are going to have to do another 30 or another 60 days of CAM because I can only give you up to 60 days of pretrial credit. So that's why it's important to really look at the statute 20-179, whatever sentence level your client falls at, and make sure that you are very clear on what the sentencing procedures are going to look like. If there is a level 2, because if your client's a level 2 because of a prior DWI conviction, so that's the grossly aggravating factor that's being used, and that prior conviction has occurred within the last 5 years, the judge must require 240 hours of community service to suspend all the jail time. So there's actually a lot of complexity that is built into this particular component of the sentencing statute. So basically, again, if the grossly aggravating factor is a prior DWI, and that prior DWI not only occurred within the last 7 years, but actually occurred within the last 5, the judge has to require 240 hours of community service to suspend all the jail time. So if your client is looking to not serve any jail sentence, then they could do 90 days of CAM and 240 hours of community service. But if they did 90 days of CAM and 1 day in jail, which would be allowed under that kind of true minimum sentence of CAM plus probation, normally plus 0 days in jail, if they did 1 day in jail plus CAM, that would not be then suspending all the jail time, and therefore my argument under the statute has been that alleviates the 240 hours of community service. 240 hours of community service is an absolute ridiculous amount of community service, and there's no such kind of similar measure under level A1 or level 1 in terms of there being any mention of community service under those kind of more serious sentence levels. So for somebody to have to do 240 hours of community service, that is basically a full-time job. Basically, if you're working 40 hours a week for 6 weeks, you're working, basically a month and a half, you're working 40 hours a week at community service. You're going to be able to be finished in a month and a half. I mean, that's just an absurd amount of community service for anybody that's trying to provide support for their family and be able to kind of meet all of these financial obligations that are coming under level 2 sentencing. This just seems to be a very onerous requirement in terms of the total community service required. So I have really tried to avoid that because I just think that no matter what any person's intentions are in terms of getting 240 hours of community service done, unless your client has really sat down and mapped out how am I going to do 240 hours of community service, that to me is not the right way to go. I've had many clients that have gone 90 days of CAM plus some sort of minimum jail time, or have just done the minimum 7 days as opposed to trying to do 240 hours of community service, because it is just an absolutely monstrous amount of community service required. Moreover, a client at a level 2, like at a level 1, can receive good time credit for an active jail sentence. So just like level 1 sentencing, your client can receive good time. So basically, if they get a 6-month active sentence at a level 2, they're going to be probably serving 3 months in custody as long as they're getting good time credit for their sentence. Level 3 falls under 20-179 subsection I. The maximum fine at a level 3 punishment level is $1,000. The statutory maximum jail time at a level 3 is 6 months. The statutory minimum jail time at level 3 sentencing is 72 hours or 3 days in jail. That statutory minimum can be replaced at level 3 with 72 hours of community service. So either jail time or community service in the amount of 72 hours. The minimum can be replaced with inpatient treatment. So you can replace the minimum jail sentence with inpatient. So if you have a client that basically says, look, I've got a drinking problem, I've got to go into an inpatient facility and goes in and does a 30-day inpatient program, don't forget about that in the sentencing hearing. Say to the judge, Your Honor, my client has done, above and beyond what he is required to at this sentence level because he recognized that he had a problem. He wanted to address that. He is asking in lieu of community service to be able to be given the minimum jail sentence of 72 hours, 3 days, and we're asking for you to credit his inpatient program that he completed against that jail time. And that way you basically eliminate the requirement for obviously jail, but also eliminate that requirement for what would kind of normally be chosen of community service. Again, if there was for some reason an active sentence given at a level 3, I've only seen that one time at a level 3, but if there's an active sentence given at a level 3, then the person can get good time credit. So let's say you get a 4-month active sentence at a level 3, then you're going to be looking at basically 60 days of real time if the person is getting good time credit. Level 4 sentencing falls under 20-179J. At a level 4, the maximum fine that can be imposed is $500. The statutory maximum jail time is 120 days in custody. The statutory minimum jail time that can be imposed is 48 hours in jail. So again, just like at level 3 at 72 hours, now we go from 3 days down to 2. So 2 days in jail. The 2 days in jail can be replaced with 48 hours of community service. So it's either 48 hours in jail or 48 hours of community service at level 4. That level 4 sentence, just like at level 3 and any other sentence level, the minimum term of jail time could be, or the maximum term of jail time could be replaced with inpatient treatment. And just like levels 1 through 3, at level 4, the client can receive good time credit on an active sentence. Finally, we get to level 5. This falls under North Carolina General Statute 20-179K. The maximum fine that can be given at a level 5 sentence is $200. The statutory the statutory maximum jail time that can be given at a level 5 is 60 days. The statutory minimum jail sentence is 24 hours or 24 hours of community service. So again, just like levels 3 and 4, at a level 5, it's either 24 hours in jail or 24 hours of community service. Just like levels 3 and 4, just like all of the other sentence levels, the minimum jail sentence required could be replaced by the judge with inpatient treatment, or could be accredited by inpatient treatment. So if your client's done a day of inpatient treatment, let's say that your client went into the hospital and then basically was put into the kind of detox section of the hospital and spent 3 or 4 days in detox, potentially you could get inpatient treatment for that. As long as it qualifies, then you could get inpatient treatment credit and use that instead of having to do the minimum jail time or the minimum community service. And again, just like levels 1 through 4, at a level 5, a client can get good time credit for an active sentence. So if for some reason, and this would be pretty well absurd because jail time is so far outside of the normal expected outcome at a level 5, but if for some reason your client got a 30-day jail sentence at a level 5, then they would be expected to be looking at 15 days in jail. So again, that's for an active sentence, not a kind of minimum sentence that's also kind of requiring a probationary, piece of things. If there's probation required, then that's not an active jail sentence. Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. Join us next time when we will continue our sentencing conversation in episode 33. We will be talking about how to develop a plan to prepare your client for sentencing, and then how to advocate for your client during the actual sentencing hearing. Look forward to speaking with you next time.